Once upon a time, in a bustling city filled with lights, technology, and endless distractions, there lived a young man named David. He was like many others, busy with work, chasing success, and finding ways to enjoy life. But deep inside, David felt missing something. He often wondered about the purpose of life, what was true, and whether God or Satan had any influence on the world he saw around him. David's life was a mixture of highs and lows. When things went well, he felt invisible, believing he controlled his own destiny. But when life took a long turn, when he lost his job, faced betrayal from close friends, and began to experience anxiety, he found himself overwhelmed with confusion. He heard people say different things. Some said God was in control, while others mocked the idea of any divine power, saying life was random, and only man and the fame mattered. Some blamed Satan for the evil in the world, but David didn't know who to believe. One evening, David attended a social event at a friend's house. As people gathered around, talking about the world's troubles, inequality, diseases, everyone seemed confused. Why is there so much suffering? One person asked. Another replied, if God is real, why does he allow evil to prosper? Yet another said, maybe it's all in our heads. Good and evil are just illusions. That night, David went home from troubled than ever. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. He began to question everything he had ever believed. Was God real? Was Satan a real force? Or was life just a chaotic mess? The next morning, David decided to visit an old mentor of his, a man named Joshua, who was known for his wisdom. David poured out his confusion to him, speaking about how lost he felt in a world where nothing seemed certain anymore. Joshua listened patiently and then told him a story. David, please, you must understand this. There was once a farmer who had a large field. In this field, he planted good seeds, expecting a rich harvest. But one night, while he slept, an enemy came and sowed the weeds among the wheat. When the plants began to grow, the weeds and the wheat grew together, and it was hard to tell them apart. The farmer's workers asked, should we pull out the weeds? The farmer replied, no, because while pulling the weeds, you might uproot the wheat with them. Let them grow together until the harvest, and at the time, the weeds will be separated from the wheat. Joshua paused and looked David in the eyes. The world is like that field, full of both good and evil. We live in a time when it's often hard to tell the difference between what is from God and what is from Satan. Many are confused. They don't know who to trust. But that doesn't mean there is no truth. God allows both good and evil to exist for now, but there will be a time when everything will be made clear. David thought about this for a long time. He realized that in the same way, the wheat and the weeds looked alike as they grew. The things of God and the works of Satan would be hard to distinguish in the world. People were confused because evil often disguised itself as good, and good sometimes seemed to lead to suffering. But just because he couldn't always tell the difference didn't mean there wasn't one. Joshua continued, David, the lesson is this. In a world filled with confusion, it's easy to lose your way if you only follow what seems right at the moment. The truth is not always obvious, and evil often hides in plain sight, making you question everything. But if you stay close to God, seek His wisdom, and trust His word, you will be able to navigate the confusion. Remember, the confusion is temporary. In time, Truth will always shine through, and the difference between God's work and Satan's deception will become clear. David left Joshua's house with a new perspective. He realized that the confusion and uncertainty he faced weren't unique to him. They were a part of living in a world where both good and evil exist side by side. But he also understood that the confusion didn't mean there was no truth. He just had to seek it patiently, trusting that God would guide him through the maze of life. As David started to live with more faith and awareness, he noticed something. The confusion that once troubled him began to fade. He still didn't have all the answers, but he had a sense of peace knowing that God was with him, guiding him. He learned to recognize when evil was trying to pull him away from that peace, and with each passing day, he grew stronger in his faith. The lesson of David's life was this: in a world filled with noise and distractions, where God and Satan seem hidden in the shadows, the key to peace is trusting God and seeking His wisdom. While evil may try to confuse and control us, those who stay close to God will always find their way through the darkness. The truth may be hard to see at first, but it's always there, waiting for those who seek it with all their heart. Thank you, friends.